Well, that happened. Listen, folks, I read the ending of the fight, well, the entire fight, in this book. No way in hell that any book reader foresaw the way that they were going to handle the fight in the series. I mean, if that were the case, I would have gotten a barf bucket and everything, you know, just right next to me while watching the episode. By the way, I had just eaten dinner, so, oh man. What I really liked about the way that they did this episode, especially in the beginning, is that they started off with two very minor characters, secondary characters, and they focused on them for a bit, and then the narrative sort of expanded to main character territory. Now, I'll tell you what I mean. The first character that we see that is of any relevance to the story is Gilly. And, well, one of the most important or interesting parts of that scene is like this woman who's like trying to burp a song, and there's some men that are trying to guess what song it is. One of them guesses wrong. He says the Rains of Castamere, and it turns out that he's actually, she was burping the Bear in the Maiden Fair. And are there any other songs that are worth noting in the series? Because I think those are the two main songs. I'm thinking, I was watching that scene, I'm thinking to myself, well, what other options could there be if it wasn't either of those two? I think it's important to remember that Gilly is in fact herself a wildling, which is one of the questions that I have is, like, Ygritte came in there, or Ygritte came in and saw her with the baby, and I was thinking to myself, did she spare her because she had a baby, or did she spare her because she somehow knew that she was a wildling? And then we go to Jon and Samwell's storyline, which is basically just build up for next week's episode. And because, I mean, it's a huge battle. I think the numbers are 100,000 versus 102. Like, holy shit. I think this is going to be like another Blackwater type of episode in which this is the entirety of the episode. We're not going to move back and forth to see other perspectives. And if people complain, it's probably because they don't realize how, like, the enormity of this shit, like how big this fight is going to be, or this battle, and, you know, what is at stake here. So, yeah, just take a look at that picture and just see for yourself. And, you know, I mean, that picture just got me hyped for next week's episode. I don't know about you. And then, of course, we have the Missandei and Grey Worm sort of romantic dynamic that has been brewing. We saw this kind of like take place in one of the previous episodes. And then that eventually drives upward towards Daenerys' storyline. Now, one of the most important things, or the most important comparison that I can make with the Grey Worm and Missandei comparison, is that even though Grey Worm has been castrated, his will is intact. In fact, like, I think his castration has almost served as a way of defining his identity as an Unsullied and strengthen his bonds with his fellow comrades. And not only that, but he took that very violent act, that hurtful act, and accepted it as part of his sort of destiny, because he even says, like, I mean, don't be sorry about this, Missandei, because if that would not have happened, I would not have been there in that time where Daenerys came in and just, you know, liberated us and made us kill the masters, and I wouldn't have met you. Even though it was mutilation, like, he owns that, because he even says he doesn't remember life before the Unsullied. So I found it incredibly smart from whoever, like, decided to edit the episode together, in that in one hand you showed the creation of a man through Grey Worm, even though he's castrated, and then I think immediately after we have Theon's storyline, and Theon is like the complete opposite. He is the example of a man that has been psychologically destroyed, partly and due because of the same mutilation. So I think that juxtaposition is just incredibly well brought up, you know, especially when you think about different human reactions to similar sort of circumstances and events. Long story short, they take Moat Cailin, and Ramsay, instead of Snow, he's renamed a Bolton now. He's actually a Bolton now. Now, I know there might be some confusion in terms of what do you mean, like Snow? Is he related to Jon Snow? No. The last name Snow just signifies that he's a bastard. Now, in Westeros, the last name that you get if you're a bastard depends on the region where you're born. By the way, the guy who plays Theon, like the way he transformed back, you know, well, first from Reek into Theon and then back to Reek, amazing acting skills. You know who else was great? Sophie Turner, who plays Sansa. It's like, to the point where I even thought that she was out acting Littlefinger in the scenes that they were in together. I'm like, damn, like people want to talk about power and stuff, and like how I know a lot of people give Sansa a lot of hate and stuff, and I can kind of see where that comes from, but you have to understand, like, Littlefinger, in my opinion, is one of the most powerful people in the series right now. When has Littlefinger like lifted an actual sword? You know, just because he's not combat savvy doesn't mean he's not powerful. And so I think in this episode we saw a little bit of Sansa sort of, you know, taking a page from Littlefinger's book and learning the ways of politics and learning the way of manipulation through rhetoric. And the beautiful part of this is that this was actually foreshadowed when Sansa was in King's Landing. Cersei told her, women have two weapons. One of them is in between your legs, and then the other one are your tears. And in this episode, Sansa played her tears like a, you know, like a total fiddle. It's like, yeah, just manipulate these suckers into thinking that you're like the victim of the circumstance to get what you want. And then we also see Littlefinger continue to play the game in that there's no way you're going to send a sick boy and expect him to live in the wilderness. Like, that boy is going to be killed. So Robin is just, you know, another piece in his game. And we see Sansa walking down the staircase and it's like a whole new person just fucking arrived. I'm like, what the fuck? She actually reminds me a lot of Kat in that scene. So yeah, a lot of really good development for her character in these very brief scenes. Then is Arya and the Hound. And oh my god, the way Arya started laughing. Maisie Williams. This is why she's my favorite character. Like, to me, that that episode could have ended right there. And it would have been a great episode.
No gold for you, motherfucker.
She actually tells the Hound, it's your pride that gets in the way of you becoming an expert killer. Like, I wouldn't have given a shit. Like, I would have killed Joffrey anyway, in any way possible. So we have a lot of foreshadowing for Sansa, and then we also have some foreshadowing for Arya, which I love. And again, I think I said this in our last review, but I think they kind of grow at the same rate in a way. You know, they mature in different aspects of you know, the society of Westeros, but they are growing, and it's just really good to see that. One is setting up to be an expert politician, and the other one is going to be an expert killer. Daenerys' scene, I have to be really careful in terms of how I dissect that scene. I have to be honest, Daenerys is not my favorite character in the show. One of the reasons I don't like her anymore is because she has a sense of entitlement that borders on madness. And so, in sort of, you know, just sending Jorah away after all they've been through. See, this is one of the problems that she has, is that she has to learn to be more forgiving. And not because it's the right thing to do. Because this show has taught us that the right thing gets you killed immediately. But because it's the smart thing to do. We know that this whole thing was set up by Tywin. Jorah tells her this whole shit was set up by Tywin. He has something to gain from you sending me away. What does she do? She sends Jorah away. And what did Tywin tell Tommen in the beginning of the season? He said, one of the major qualities that a ruler should have is to be wise. And being wise, it requires you to have people around you to counsel you, to let you know what you don't know and how to make decisions. And, you know, you brainstorm and you listen to people. Daenerys has none of that. It's like, fuck this shit. Get the fuck out of here. I'm gonna throw your head in Slaver's Bay. I know Jorah fucked up, but like, jeez. I mean, he's also kind of the reason why you're still alive, FYI. Whatever. I'm getting too upset. Moving on to brighter and happier things. The ending. On a scale from 1 to infinity, how traumatized are you if you don't read the books? They played with your expectations, right? They made you feel like, oh, Oberyn's got this, don't worry. The way he was spinning that spear like it was a fucking fan. And I don't know if that was Pedro Pascal's doing. Like, I don't know if that's the actual actor or if it's like a, you know, a spear master that they put in like as a double, but holy shit. Like, it's like, this guy is an expert. And, you know, he stabs the mountain countless times. In fact, I'm just going to say this. This isn't a spoiler, but let me just say that fight is not in vain. It's not, like, the fight wasn't in vain for Oberyn's sake. But that ending scene, oh my gosh. It's like you could have dropped this guy out of an airplane and his head would have looked the exact same way. Splattered like a tomato. Holy shit. And then you see Tyrion's face like, well, I'm fucked. You got Tywin looking at his nuts going like, yes, Tyrion, you are fucked. And then, by the way, what was that bullshit with Pycelle at the beginning of the match? Like, go home, Pycelle. You're on crack. You're not drunk. You're on crack. Leave. Amazing episode of Game of Thrones, guys. Please tell me your thoughts about it down in the comment section below. Rate the video, like it if you did, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll see you guys next week for more Game of Thrones madness. Holy crap. Can't wait. Bye.